Hey everyone, welcome back to the Redlands Rundown, your official podcast of Redlands Community College, where we're committed to helping you find success in college with your career and everything in between. We're excited for this episode today. We're kind of calling it our recap of season 1. And so we're going to go through and talk about some of our favorite moments, some of our favorite lessons that we took away. And this has been a really fun project for Sydney and I. We came up with this idea last summer and really had a lot of support here. And I feel like there's been a lot of good that came out of it. So I'm excited to talk about our favorite moments. So I'll let Sydney start us off with some of her favorite episodes.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. I feel like we had so many fun guests this season. And you and I also just had fun conversations.
Yeah, we did.
And that was a note that I had made as we were going through and talking about, what we wanted to talk about this episode. Was one of the things I wrote was, I just love doing it with you. I had such a good time. It's kind of dangerous they put us on an amp, but I just had so much fun doing it with you. But the first episode I wrote down was Professor Tabor's. I have made, so many comments about the impact he's made on me and how much I love him and adore him. And he has just really, as a person, as a professor, has made such an impact on my life. And getting to sit here and tell him about the impact he made for me, just not just on my educational journey, but in who I am as a person. And then to get to hear him talk about the impact that he has had on people, but also the impact that his students have made back on him was really, really special to see and to hear. And I hope it gave kind of like a grounding or humanity almost to professors, because I know they can be really intimidating to students. And I know sometimes it feels like, well, I don't want to go tell my professor that I'm struggling or that I need help or whatever it might be. And I felt that with a lot of people, but I never felt that with him. And so I really try as a professor now to kind of do the same thing that he did when I think about how I want to come across as a teacher, how I want to come across as a person.
Yeah.
And so just getting to hang out with him for, 30 minutes to an hour and get to hear his stories was so much fun for me.
Yeah, I think it's a good testament to the fact that our faculty really do care about our students.
Yeah, for sure. And it was also really fun to see, he got to walk through the halls, obviously, to see his old friends. And all of the other faculty members were like, oh my gosh, Professor Tabor. He was like a celebrity. And so it was really cool because it was cool to see the impact he also made on his peers.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I know because of how excited they were to see him, it's because of how great he is and how great they are. So that was really cool for me. I also wrote down Nathan's episode, which is my little brother. I've talked about it before. I'm not going to say that the content in that episode was fantastic, but the experience I had with him was so much fun, and I just felt like we were kids again.
Yeah.
There's only 4 years between us, and we did not get along when we were little, and so it was like a do-over almost of getting to hang out with him and to hear about things he's going through right now. And what I really wanted him to talk about was his transition from college to work and kind of where he struggled at with that. And he did not necessarily touch on that. I think he evaded every question I asked, which was kind of impressive. But I still have seen him grow through those challenges and figure out kind of his path and figure out a way that it works for him and the balance he needs with his life and with his work and everything like that. And it's been really cool to get to see him kind of grow up and grow through it. And I also hope it was, even though he wasn't necessarily as forthcoming as I hoped he would be as his big sister, I hoped it was encouraging to students to hear, it's okay to not know.
Right.
And that was something that I feel like was a recurring theme throughout the season, was we don't know a lot of the time, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to embrace the unknown a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to mention that transition from college to career can be challenging.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about how that was challenging, and your life and some of your habits just shift a little bit, but it doesn't mean you have to lose yourself or even that your identity has to be wrapped up in your career. I feel like a lot of young people feel that pressure, that their identity really leans a lot on what they want to do with their career, and that doesn't have to be the case. So yeah, I think that there was a lot of good that came out of talking through that.
Yeah. And I think that's been a really cool part of this season. I feel like is I walk away with from every episode with some kind of thought of my own after talking to someone or some kind of realization. But I was thinking about even just themes throughout. And one of the things I kept coming back to was it's okay to ask questions and you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's something that we've talked about a lot is like how you don't know it. You haven't done this before, so it's okay. And whether that's being here for the first time, whether that's starting your job, you haven't done any of these things before, so it's okay to not be sure of it.
Right.
The third one I wanted to talk about was our student episode with Tristan Gage. This episode really stood out to me because getting to hear from him as a student athlete, someone who is first generation, he moved from a different state to come here, just all the different things that he had kind of gone through in his life and the experiences that he's had on campus and the friends he's made and the impact that the school has had on him was really, really special. I just thought about being 18 and, taking on a new challenge and this new adventure. And to hear the way that he was navigating that change so gracefully was really cool to hear and very inspirational. And I think it was actually one of our most viewed. So shout out to Tristan for that. I am sure it was a lot of his basketball team and his family, but I'm glad that they listened because he had a lot to say. I also always, always, always quote him saying that, they're still kids and they want to do activities and things outside because they're still young. And it makes me laugh, but it also makes me feel so ancient because I was like, oh, okay.
Because I want to be inside.
I want to be inside. I want to be in the air conditioning. But I loved his episode and I hope that other students listened to it and kind of took away like the lessons that he has learned and either saw themselves in him or just learned a really cool story about him.
Yeah.
And then the last one, it's actually one of our most recents, and it was with Tori Davis, and it's already a favorite of mine. She talked to us a little bit about Upward Bound, and she also told us just about her educational and career journey, and it was very moving to hear the different things that she has accomplished. If you don't know Tori very well, one of the things that's so spectacular about her is that she's done everything she's done as an adult. So every degree she has gotten, she has been working during it, has been an adult during it, and is a single mom, and is just a phenomenal human. And so hearing about what she's doing for those kids and then also getting to reflect on Trio, which I think you're going to talk about that episode a little bit, which is another one of our favorites that we did. But I just really enjoyed getting to sit down and talk with her. And I got to have a really cool moment with her because one of the things that I tell my students a lot and that I say on here a lot is that no one can ever take your knowledge from you. She's actually a big reason why I went on and got my master's degree because I was kind of sitting and thinking like, do I want to do it? And I sat down in her office and that's what she said to me and it has stuck with me. And I got to tell her like, you're the person that gave me that essentially. And so it was very full circle for me and just fun to get to sit with a friend and hear her story.
Yeah, that's really impactful.
Yeah, it really was. I want to hear about your favorite moments.
Okay, I went back through and looked at kind of all the episodes that we did. And we had so many good ones, and so it's hard to not get super long. One of our early episodes, I think, was with Amy Graham talking about our Trio program. And if you haven't listened to that, that's our first generation support program here at Redlands. And one of my favorite things that she talked about is how Trio really meets our students where they're at and helps them with their each individual goals. And so I love that the program isn't designed as a one size fits all, and puts them all in this box and gives them all a template. It's like, hey, what are your goals?
Right.
Let's cater and let's work around those. Right. So I love the support that gives our students. Walking by the fishbowl every day and seeing those students in there, it's an awesome program and an awesome resource for them, and they do such amazing work.
They do. It is probably my favorite thing about Redlands campus, honestly. And I tell Amy all the time, she was and is instrumental to me in how I handle students. I feel like she's done such a good job of seeing needs and meeting them. And that's such a big lesson that I have taken from her. And I just watch her and, it's always like, where's Miss Amy? She's the one that everyone wants to see. So it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one of my favorite episodes is when we had President Morrow. Yeah. I loved hearing about her background and I learned some things that I didn't know. And I think that she has an experience with her college education that a lot of our students, especially non-traditional, I don't really like calling them that because I think everyone has a place here. Yeah. But she, was married with a new baby, working a full-time job when she was in college. And we have a lot of students that can relate to, a piece of that, if not all of it. And so I think that that's also another testament that we have people at Redlands that can relate to the situation that you're in, and that it's a place for everyone, no matter what stage of life that you're in.
Yeah.
And so I loved her getting to talk a little bit about her background. And then I also loved her talking about the motto that she put in place for the year. And we talked about that a little bit on the episode. She introduced it at Fall in Service last year. Lead by example was the motto, and really talked about how, at Redlands, we don't expect anyone to be too big or too small to do the little thing.
Right.
Whether that's walking a student to an office or a classroom that they're looking for, taking the extra time to make sure that we're meeting their needs, or even just simple things like picking up a piece of trash. I think that was a great motto that, I think sometimes we can look over the little things and really pursue these great big goals. But the little things are really what make such a difference, I feel like, in the culture at Redlands. And so I love that was our motto for the year.
Right. I think that was really impactful. And I think just to touch back on what you said about her background and everything, so cool hearing it from anyone. But I think especially as the president of the college, like to know at the highest of levels, that's still achievable. Like everything that she did, it could not have been easy. And I know it's not easy for a lot of our students. And so seeing that and hearing that must have been really rewarding for a lot of people.
Yeah. Not only is it relatable, but also there are no goals that are too lofty that you cannot attain. So, I thought that was a really fun episode. I think one of the best resource episodes that we did was probably our conversation with Paris from financial aid. And I feel like that can be kind of an intimidating conversation to talk about, and one that can cause some stress and anxiety, especially anytime you're talking about finances.
Right.
Everything is expensive.
Yeah.
So knowing that we have a small but mighty team in our financial aid office, Paris and Mackenzie, and they are, happy to help with FAFSA. We have a lot of students that use Pell. We have tons of internal scholarships that we offer. I'd say, between our tuition waivers, Regents and Presidential, and Foundation, I would say upwards of, $150,000, $160,000.
Which is insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of financial support. So it was great to talk about, those resources for our students and kind of put a face with an office in a concept that can be.
And she is a wealth of knowledge. She knows so many things about so many different things. And so I think, like you said, one of the greatest resources we have, and it extends across all of campus, is just knowing, like, even if I don't know, we'll get you to the right person. And that's a great example of that.
Yeah. And she loves helping students.
She does. I feel like people are in there all the time.
Yeah. So if you need help with the forms, doing your FAFSA application, they're happy to help with that. So I thought that was fun. And then our mental health conversation with Julie right before Christmas break, I thought the timing was great, and it's so important to talk about. Let's not ignore the fact that school and life is really overwhelming sometimes. And so we talked about, ways that we can recognize when we need to rest and reset, when we're getting on the verge of, burning out versus normal pressure that can be motivating.
Right.
And talking about that balance.
Yeah. Because there is a difference. And I think that episode was really impactful because I feel like even outside of just students, for employees, for anyone that listened to it, because we all get to a place sometimes where it's like, is this too much? Am I just being inspired or am I being overwhelmed? And so she also is just so good at what she does and so great to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's a great resource for our students on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one of my favorite episodes from the year was when we had Ken Thompson on.
He's amazing.
I love that guy. I think that his story is incredible and so inspiring. If you're thinking about going back to school or you love your career, it doesn't matter, I think, what stage that you're in. His story is one that I love. So if you haven't heard that episode, I would definitely go watch it.
Yeah, what a great one.
But Ken, he was working in a high school setting. He has a master's degree in English and decided to come back and is pursuing a nursing degree. And he shared so much insight and knowledge and wisdom with our listeners. And, one of my favorite things is that how he really highlighted lifelong learning and how there's a lot. He's excited to apply what he has learned as a teacher into the nursing field because we talked about, that transition from teacher to nursing. And he mentioned, I kind of feel like I'll always be a teacher in some facet, even in the nursing field.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting to be able to say, even though I'm transitioning, there's still so much good that came out of my experience as a teacher as I'm moving into this new field.
Right. And what a good example of A, you can start whenever, but B, he's not really even starting over because he's still going to use. And I will say, my sister worked with him at Kingfisher where he taught, and said he was everyone's favorite teacher, that he was a phenomenal teacher. And so I know just from that everything he learned there, he will be a phenomenal nurse.
Yeah. And another comment that he made that really stuck with me too was, sticking with your passion over expectations that you feel like people around you or even society puts on you. It's easy to feel like, well, people expect this from me, or this is the safe option.
Right.
And to go with that and kind of ignore your gut feelings sometimes. And so his point of, pursue something that you care about, not just for external validation, I thought was a fantastic point.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to fall into that.
Oh, yeah. It's so easy. And I think, there's that quote all the time that says, like, time's going to pass anyways. And I think he's a great example of that, of knowing, whether I stay in this job that maybe isn't my greatest passion or I go on and do this, either way, that those years are still going to go by. So why not do something I love? Why not do something I'm passionate about?
Yeah.
Which is really, really moving.
Yeah. So those are kind of my episodes that I really wanted to highlight. And there are so many good ones that we didn't even mention. And so if you haven't been a regular listener for the season, I would encourage you to go back because there's so many good episodes. But, there's kind of a lot of big themes that we can take away. And I feel like even as we went through and talked about it, there's a lot of commonalities between each of those. I feel like we talked about how everyone's path is different.
Right.
And we talked about through Trio and, some of our other students and their experiences and, life changes. And so that might mean your path shifts a little bit.
Right.
And, at Redlands, we're kind of here to meet you wherever you're at on that path.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was one of the good takeaways that we had. We also talked about support systems. Not only do we feel like our students at Redlands have great support systems, but also, we've had a lot of students that talk about their outside support system.
Right.
And so really leaning on those. And if you don't feel like you have someone outside, know that we at Redlands are happy to be the people for you, to support you through that.
Absolutely. And I think, like we've talked about so many times, that's one of the best things about being here.
Yeah. And then just taking the first step. We've talked about how thinking about things and making those changes can be really overwhelming. But like we said, we don't want that to be something that prevents you from taking that first step. And so we've talked a lot about how, if you have questions, if there's a way that we can help you at Redlands, we want to be that person. And so, if there's anything that you're on the fence about that you've been thinking about, if it's going back to school, if it's getting a certification, you feel like financially this isn't viable for you, whatever it might be that you're thinking about, just take that first step and reach out to us and we'll talk through what options that you have and how, we can help you.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the other things too, is there are so many options. Maybe you feel like you want to start out, but it's overwhelming. We can put you in just one class, and then we can talk to financial aid about how we can help with finances. So there's just so many different routes that you can take that might ease that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of good takeaways, I feel like, from this season.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to the next season. We're going to take a little bit of a break over the summertime. We might work on some content and start back up in the fall. And unfortunately, we're not going to have our special co-host, Sydney, anymore. Sydney, do you want to share about your new opportunity that you're pursuing?
I would love to. So for the past year and a half, I guess now, I have been in a split position between Redlands and USAO doing career services. And I was given the opportunity to expand my role at USAO and go there full time. And so with that has taken away my opportunity to be here, obviously. And so today is actually my last day. This is actually my last podcast. Unless Macey wants to have me as a guest sometime.
We may do that. We're going to put that on the table.
Yes, but I've loved doing this specifically with you. I think it has been one of the most fun things I've gotten to do since I've been here, and one of the most impactful. I just think like I've been able to reach so many different people in different ways, and I think you have too, than maybe we weren't reaching before. And so I'm really lucky you came up with this idea and you pitched it to me and we got to do it together.
Yeah, I'm really glad too. It's been such a fun project, and you shared your experience, and I feel like a lot of the guests that you've had on too, like it's been awesome for our listeners, and there's no one else that I would have wanted to start this project with. And so it's been a lot of fun. I'm super sad that you're leaving us. But I'm glad that you mentioned that you'd be open to coming back, because we might have to do that. And I think that your experience moving from career to, kind of same field, but taking advantage of new opportunities. Yes, that's something that we can talk about later on too. So I think that would be good. Let's plan on that.
Put it on the calendar. I'd love that.
Awesome. Okay. Very cool. Well, we're excited for next season. Keep an eye out for Sydney to be joining us in season 2 sometime to talk about her new position. But we want to thank you guys for joining us through season 1. It has been so much fun working together with our team at Redlands. We're excited for season 2. And if you guys have ideas or things that you want us to talk about in our next season, feel free to reach out to us and let us know. We want to know what's helpful to you guys. And so let us know what content that we can continue to work on. But I think with that, we'll kind of wrap up, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.